What happened at the worst party you've ever been to? I went to a friend's graduation party after high school. I wasn't great friends with him, but I figured I would stop by with my GF because he was nice enough to invite me. The party was so done up. Tables full of food, streamers, confetti, all that shit. And my GF and I were the only ones there. I felt awful. His parents clearly went all out to celebrate it. And it was so uncomfortable being one of 5 people there, including him and his parents. I felt awful for him. We stayed 4 hours out of pity. And just kind of made small talk. Super depressing. Over 10 years ago my employees got together to throw me a going away party. It was held at a local bar that had closed to the public just for the party, so of course I'm feeling really special. There was a kid there, around 19 years old, who was a really good guy but generally attracted trouble. I used to talk to him all the time, and anytime I sensed that he was about to step out or do something stupid I used to always say, you know the worst gift a kid can give his mother? A dead son. There's a long story behind that, but it just somehow became a thing I always said to him. Anyway, I gave a quick speech and started to duck out just as things were livening up so everybody could have their fun while I returned to my wife and our newborn. I bumped into that kid on the way out. Talked to him a bit. And of course the dead son line was the last thing I said before I left. Actually I said, you know the worst gift. And he answered, a dead son. Gave me a hug. And that was it. Pretty obvious how this story ends. Got the call a few hours later telling me he'd been killed in a car wreck. Turns out that he was trying to do good, hadn't drank a drop. No drugs. Or anything. He just got into the wrong car and let a drunk idiot drive him home. There were about 4 kids in the car and he was the only one that didn't walk away. Sad. Edit. Thanks you/Faunchlia. Oh dear god. I made out with my ex-wife's mother at a poolside party. Yes, booze was involved. Acquaintance I had met a few weeks prior invited me to a surprise party for his girlfriend. He said free beer, so I was there. I show up and it's pre-gaming and your usual college shenanigans. Person in charge of keeping her busy texts him and says they'll be home soon. We are all pretty blitzed at this point, but we manage to start hiding. 2 minutes pass. Then 2 more. And nothing. Finally I get up to go find him. He's getting SPJ from one of the other girls at the party. They barely noticed me. But in the meantime, the girlfriend came to the front door and she couldn't have been more excited. Everything other than that was going great until I was formally introduced to the girl giving some sloppy head. It was the girlfriend's sister. No one at this party knew except me. That was the worst party because it sobered me up quick with awkwardness all night. Some girl apparently had made out with a guy who wasn't her boyfriend before leaving. Someone at the party tells him via text, and a little while later someone is kicking down the door. He barges in waving a gum around screaming, "Which one of you methodica's made out with my girl?" People are ducking, scurrying away, and I'm just standing there thinking, if this is how I die I'm going to be pissed. Host who knew him quickly pushes him out the door. A couple of months ago I went to my friend's party, which was joined with his flatmates. About 20 minutes after we got there the housemaid started banging on a glass with a fork, and one of my friends got everyone to quiet down assuming it was a speech. The guy then says there are too many people here that I don't know and told me and most of my friends to leave. He took us down to let us out but couldn't unlock the front door, so we had to awkwardly stand there for 15 minutes until he found the housemate we were friends with and made him let us all out. Somebody brought their baby. Keep in mind we're all 17-year-olds, so WTF. Weird. 17-year-olds with babies normally make such good decisions. I visited a buddy of mine at his college and he invited me to his fraternity's party. They forgot to send the social email to the sorority, so none of them showed up. This was supposed to be a huge party, so all the bros showed up hammered and angry at seemingly everyone that there were no girls. It was a toga party. 55 dudes, 0 girls, and 55 togas. Better than fewer than 55 togas. My sister's birthday was in the middle of the school holidays. And for her 7th birthday she had a party that no one turned up to. Turns out our mother put the wrong date on the invites. So a lot of people had tried to come over the day before whilst we were out. That's better than the alternative where the date was correct and flat out no one showed up. Wrong date on the invites sounds like an excuse I'd use in that situation. Or now I feel really bad for the sister. High school. Late 80s. At an outside party with a bonfire to celebrate the end of the school year. Some numbnuts throws a glass bottle of beer into the fire. About 20 minutes later the bottle explodes and shoots a stream of boiling beer all over a girl's crotch and legs. Ambulance was called. I believe she required several skin grafts over several months. I can still remember her shrilling scream and then her passing out. Backstory. We had a friend that liked to throw parties. But most of the people that showed up were underage. Including me. I went to a few of his parties. But he lived in a dorm and the parties got bigger and bigger, so my Sue and I got sketched out and stopped going. Good thing too, because the next one got busted. 50 underage people with 2 guys that were 21. The host and another random friend. The host was charged and kicked out of the dorm and everyone, except for the of age friend, had to go do student conduct. Fast forward a couple months and he's throwing another party in his new apartment. I was living in the same complex. And my roommates and I decided we'd go. The host had hyped it up a bit. He had a Facebook page for his parties, and it was supposed to start at 10. Of course. We don't show up on time cause that's uncool, and we get there around 11 after pre-gaming a bit. When we get there there's techno music and lights in the window. But when the door opens there's no one there but the host and a keg of Shock Top. It's just me. 3 friends I brought. And the lonely host. We tried to pick it up a bit by playing some drinking games. But the host was desperately texting everyone in his phone to try to get people to come and not even paying attention to the 4 guests he does have. At one point a few more people knocked on the door but left when they saw it was empty. He ended up putting on Space Jam. We left about 30 minutes in because we couldn't take it anymore. Edit. Talked to some co-workers and remembered this also happened another time. We worked at the same job. Before I started working there. 3-4 co-workers got stuck at a party in his dorm with a keg to themselves. Awkwardness ensued. The worst was a large second-year college party at some kid's off-campus apartment. Some of us noticed that people kept disappearing. Without a word. From the party. Until we opened a bedroom door and saw an orgy in progress, with people so boozed up, or high, that there were no boundaries as to who was doing what. And to whom. 2 couples got into a fight. Later. When they realized their partners were doing each other, the rest of us just left before things got worse. My brother was at a party once where there were more than a couple underage drinkers present. The house they were at had a thin driveway, so all the cars were packed into a bottleneck. The night wore on and around 1 in the morning someone decided they wanted to go home. They found the girl who owned the car at the front of the bottleneck and asked her to move her car so she could get out. She said she couldn't because she had a breathalyzer installed in her car and it wouldn't start until someone sober blew into it. They went around the party and tried to find anyone who hasn't been drinking and couldn't find one. Another guy had the brilliant idea of asking the cool 20-something dude next door to do it. So an envoy of teens head over to the house next door and ask the dude living there if he would please blow into a breathalyzer so they could leave. The dude takes a minute to look the group over. Takes a drag of his cigarette. And says, "You're gonna give me $25 for every person at the party or I'm calling the cops." Double quote. It was a bachelor party. A friend of a friend was getting married. I ended up there because my buddy had an extra invitation. Strippers all around. Booze and sheet. About 30 minutes later. 5 to 6 wives break in the place and start to yell at their husbands, almost all of them with a stripper by their side. I left as soon as possible and masturbated myself to sleep. Fools decided to hold the keg in the basement. The party got way too crowded and people ended up camping around the keg. As you can imagine. The basement got exceedingly hot and crowded. with too many bodies, stagnant air, low ceilings and heat. Someone eventually threw up. This coupled with an already empty keg caused a stampede for the one narrow staircase out. A bottleneck ensued and someone got wedged and pushed so hard into the door frame at the base of the stairs that their arm broke in 2 places. Hysteria. Police and an ambulance ended up on the scene and the party was over. TLDR equals don't put the keg in the basement. Friend spat in a girl's face. I had to sleep in the kitchen and use the inside of a cupboard as a pillow. I like how the two are seemingly unrelated. Lost a game of quarters and ended up buying an elephant. There was a guy blowing glass bongs and pipes at the party I was at. Someone got so sheet-faced and knocked him over, which set the house on fire. Good times. Few years ago my friend threw a big party at the house she shared with 3 guys. Everyone who lived in this house was in a relationship. And all of them had been friends since they were about 11. The morning of the party it emerged that a few days before one of the guys had sexually assaulted another's girlfriend. At the party everyone was trying to keep this down low because only 3 people knew. I was told that he couldn't come because he was ill and went to stay at home for a day or 2. The entire story came out at about 2 AM. Everyone was screaming. Tears everywhere. So many punches were thrown. And the guy who did it wasn't even there. The house was wrecked completely. It ended at like 4 AM with me and a couple of other people just sitting on the steps eating the cupcakes someone brought, staring at the mess. That party, and the events leading up to it, completely destroyed a friend group. The guy that did it maintains that it was mutual. The girl it happened to maintains he tried to grape her. The 4 people that live together divided down the middle and haven't spoken to the other 2 since they moved out 3 weeks after the party. Had a friend who did the bowling party birthday when he was 17 and it was entirely organized by his parents. Cake. Hats. Dumb games. Oof. Like 5 people showed up. And everyone was embarrassed to be there. I have a few. 1. Senior year of high school. Went to a party down the street. Tons of people showed up. So I ended up drinking with a few people in the basement where it was less crowded. At like 2 AM the cops showed up and kicked in the front door. They didn't let anyone leave before getting their information and writing them a ticket. I hid in the shower while they were searching the basement. Once everyone had gotten picked up or driven home by the cops, I went to sleep on the back porch as the sun was coming up. Without getting any citations or in any trouble. Everyone else lost their license for a year. 2. First semester college. Get to frat party. Drink and chill for a bit. I was in the kitchen getting a new beer when all of a sudden the music stops and I realize something's wrong. I walk back to the living room and this dude is having a seizure on the floor. We all see it. And it freaks us all out. I was invited to a birthday party and I took a 6-pack of beer. I found out halfway through the party that it was actually an anniversary party for the woman's first year of being sober. Everyone at the party was from the group at Alcoholics Anonymous. I was the only person standing there with a beer in my hand. I quickly left and was too embarrassed to take the remaining beers. 4 years after, I wondered whether any of those people drank the rest of my beer and fell off the wagon as a result. I threw a surprise birthday party for my middle sister last year and she got super upset. She cried and made a huge scene in front of everyone at the restaurant. She thought her boyfriend was gonna propose because he wouldn't tell her where they were going. She's the worst. Very ungrateful girl, I must say. Walked into my kitchen to see a very large semi-pro football player choking out a girl over the sink. I yell, "What the duck are you doing?" And he asks me who the duck I am. When I say it's my apartment, he stops, reaches out his hand and says, "Sorry, man." No disrespect. Great party. My wife was on her way up to the north of England to be a bridesmaid for her friend who she has known since they were young. Her friend has learning disabilities, but seemed happy with her husband-to-be. On the morning of the wedding, the groom was arrested for molesting young children. He was, apparently, a known pedophile. The bride's family went ahead with the wedding reception anyway. They still had the wedding reception. My 5-year-old birthday party. My friend Ricky decided to blow out my candles after everyone sang happy birthday, but before I had a chance to blow them out, I cried like a little itch. Duck Ricky. I went to the beach for a friend's birthday party. After the sun went down, we drove back to her house, about 30 minutes away, to continue the party. When we got home, her dog was dead. Because she lives in a rural area, the other guys and I had to dig a hole and bury it so the coyotes wouldn't consume the carcass. Burying a dead dog is the weirdest thing I've ever done at a birthday party. When I was in high school, my classmate was moving and his family had already gone to the new house. The old house was going to be torn down and was vacant. So he threw a break my sheet party. People showed up with baseball bats, etc. I felt underdressed with an axe handle. Alcohol was involved. I was greeted at the door by a guy with a 6-shooter in his waistband, holding a chainsaw. The event only went downhill from there. I was 16 and now, many years later, I'm a dad. It makes me cringe very hard that my offspring would ever attend an event like that.